I told my husband his mother is no longer allowed in our house. My mother-in-law Sylvia has always been a nightmare, but I tried to play nice for the sake of my marriage. She has this way of making every single thing about her, and she treats me like an intruder in my own home. When I got pregnant last year, she told everyone it was a miracle because she didn't think I had the hips for childbearing. I let that slide. When we picked out a name for our son, she told us it sounded like a name for a dog, and spent the next 6 months calling my belly by a name she liked instead. I let that slide too because my husband David kept telling me she is just old school and doesn't mean any harm. Everything changed yesterday during our son's first birthday party. We had about 20 people over, and I spent all morning decorating the backyard and making a custom cake that was dairy-free because our son has a severe milk allergy. I mentioned this allergy to Sylvia at least 50 times in the last year. I even put a little sign on the food table that said no dairy. I saw her hovering near the cake while I was in the kitchen getting more napkins, but I didn't think much of it because I figured even she wouldn't be that reckless. A few minutes later, I heard my son screaming this high-pitched, terrifying sound that I have never heard before. I ran outside and saw Sylvia holding him and laughing while wiping white frosting off his face with a napkin. She looked at me and said that he just needed a little taste of real birthday cake and that I was being way too dramatic about his dietary needs. She told the guests that I am a helicopter parent who is going to make him weak. Within seconds, my son's face started swelling and he began wheezing. The next hour was a blur of panic. We had to use the EpiPen and rush him to the emergency room while Sylvia stood in the driveway screaming that I was ruining the party over a little rash. David was driving like a madman while I sat in the back seat trying to keep our son conscious. The doctors told us that if we had waited even 10 more minutes, he could have gone into full anaphylactic shock. We spent the night in the pediatric ward watching him breathe through a machine. When we finally got home this morning, there were 10 missed calls from Sylvia. I listened to the voicemails and she wasn't even asking if the baby was okay. She was complaining that she had to drive herself home and that we left her with all the dirty dishes. She actually said that I should apologize to her for making her feel like a criminal in front of her friends. David was sitting on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands, and I told him right then that it was over. I told him that I am changing the locks today, and if his mother ever sets foot on our property again, I am calling the police and filing for a restraining order. David started with the usual excuses about how she is just lonely and didn't understand the severity of the situation. I looked him dead in the eyes and told him that if he chooses his mother over his son's life, he can go live with her and I will have the divorce papers ready by Monday. I told him he had 1 hour to call her and tell her she is banned, or he could start packing his own bags. He finally realized I wasn't bluffing. He called her on speakerphone and I heard her start her usual performance about how she is the victim. David actually cut her off and told her that she almost killed his son because of her ego and that she is not allowed near us until further notice. She started screeching about how ungrateful he was and he just hung up. It was the first time in 5 years I felt like I was actually married to a man and not a mama's boy. I am currently sitting in the nursery watching my son sleep and the locksmith is downstairs right now changing the front door. Sylvia is currently blowing up my phone telling me that I am a witch who has brainwashed her son, but she is blocked on everything now. I don't care if the rest of the family thinks I am being extreme or if she has to spend the holidays alone. My house is no longer a place where her ego comes before my child's safety, and if she tries to show up here, she is going to find out exactly how fast the local police can respond to a trespasser.